Hey guys, this is Kirob speaking, and in today's little dev update, we are going to tackle a few rather theoretical problems, or not really problems, but rather solutions. And I will choose to not show them to you in-game, but rather in graph form, because we don't have the necessary feedback in the game yet, like UI stuff, like graphs and so on, to actually show what I'm talking about. So let's make this a little bit of a spreadsheet fest today. And I have 3 topics for you, and that would be economic progression and modeling, as well as topic number 2, company reputation, prestige and image, and topic number 3, region unlocks and the base region stats in campaign mode. Alright, let's get into topic number 1. Alright, let's get started with the economic cycles modeling of the Lite Campaign, and I shall make this as painless as possible, as many of you aren't that much into mathematics and economic modeling either. So what we are seeing here is actually pretty simple. There are 2 lines in total, and one is hidden behind the other. And the red line is the budget multiplier, and the budgets increase over time already. So what I'm showing here is just the difference to a factor 1. And the blue line is the demographic size multiplier. The demographic sizes currently are static, and that is why this multiplier will have to increase over the time of the course of the game as these regions get bigger. Many of you would probably expect like, oh, yep, this is probably what it will look like for the Lite Campaign. And no, it's not quite. That will be very simple. We don't have static regions throughout the campaign. The regions will change in that the demographics will evolve. So one of these evolutionary steps is just a very simple linear progression. This is the example for Gazmir, which grows from an average strength of 0.5 to an average strength of 1. And if we take Arjana as an example, it grows from 0.1 to 0.6. So in the case of Arjana, this is a factor 6, and in the case of Gazmir, this is only a factor 2, a true emerging market, so to say, for Arjana. Alright, so what do we have then? It isn't interesting to just have a straight line either. So what can we do to offset that? Well, there are 3 different types of waves, economic waves, I want to not really simulate, but emulate in very, very rough terms. And you can emulate waves, of course, by using sine waves. And let's take the biggest wave into account first, and that would be the Kondratiev wave, which is about a time period of 70 years. And that is about a human lifespan. And if we just put one on top of this linear progression, then you see that, oh yeah, that's already quite a bit more interesting. It's rising faster and slower, or even dropping a bit in between. Then there is the next wave, which I call the monetary cycle wave. This is also just a sine wave, but it has a period of 35 years instead. And if you put these 2 sine waves together on this straight line, you get pretty interesting results already. Like this one, for instance, where it is rising really slowly in the 40s and 50s, and then stagnating and even dropping back again, and then you have this big boom from late 70s till mid 90s. And that is something that fits the general theme of the game, I think. If it's really just static, then making decisions is far too easy. So what more is there? Well, first a few examples. And this one is the same thing, but with different randomization. And this one too. And so you see, well, you can already get really different results, and that will change how you play the campaign a lot. So replayability value through the roof, right? New challenges every time you play. And opportunities, that is probably the most important thing. Let's see, what more is there? I talked so far about 2 different cycles, and to make it more realistic we need a 3rd one, and that would be the business cycle. The business cycle is said to last about 7 years. It is a bit on and off and can be a little bit delayed and come earlier and so on, but basically you expect this boom-bust cycle, which mainly comes from central bank meddling with the economy. Central planning works so well, you know? And the boom-bust cycle I've just approximated with a sine wave, which varies in frequency over the course of the years and varies in amplitude over the course of the years. And that then gives also pretty different results, as you can see here in the 2nd example. And if we put all of them together, not yet. Because if we put all of them together, we still just have sine waves in one shape or another, but that isn't really realistic, is it? Well, the sine waves aren't very realistic either, but if we put a little bit of noise on top of them, that gives a bit more realistic look to them. And once we have all of them combined, it looks something like this. Well, that's just one example. We can also have this example, or we can have this example, or maybe even this example. As you can see, there's a huge difference between all of these, and that will change how you play the game, and you will need to get pretty good at reading those and like forecasting what will happen next if there's a big bust coming, or if you are if you have an opportunity there by upgrading your factories now and then anticipating that there will be a big spike up in demand maybe. So all good stuff. Now you ask, well, are these all the same for all the regions, all the 3 regions? Not quite, no. I synchronize the monetary cycle and the business cycle. Each region gets their own randomization, and then what is different is the Kondratiev wave, the longest wave. And that will see to it that the trends in regions are very different. And that will be super interesting in the campaign, if you maybe even have to shift over to a different region, focus more on a different region which has different tastes just because your market starts to really trend down while the others are trending up. Very interesting situations can form there. So I'm looking forward to playing with this, and this is already all in the game. But of course, if there is no way of showing it to you in the game, that's a bit hard. So I just went to the spreadsheet where I all designed the stuff. And yeah, that's it. Let's go over to topic number 2. Topic number 2 is pretty much impossible to actually show, but I at least can talk about it. It is about company prestige, reputation, and company image. And we are going to try to get this into the Lite campaign as well before, at least before release. Maybe it won't be there right at the start of the open beta, but that is something really cool for the progression and really the start of the game to shape your company. Yeah, how does it work? Well, you start off with an awareness factor, which modifies the size of your potential sales. You start off in your starting region with a decently high factor for the awareness, so that you have a little, let's say, home turf bonus. And from there, it modifies the awareness in the different demographics. This is all by demographic. The more cars you sell to a certain demographic, the more aware it will become of you. So if you have good cars which sell a good amount in a demographic, this demographic will actually grow for you, for what you can see of that demographic. You become known to people who want to have a family hatchback or whatever. Then yeah, after a while producing good family hatchbacks, then your demographics will increase in that sense. You get a bit of a reputation, or do you? Well, no, reputation is something entirely different. Reputation is the average reliability of all cars in the market compared to the reliability of the car you sell. And every car you sell is then checked against this average reliability, and your reputation is modified accordingly. So if you sell a car which has a 10-point higher reliability compared to the average of all cars, then your reputation rises. But it doesn't rise indefinitely, it then caps out depending on how much you beat the average reputation. The same goes for prestige, which just takes all cars in the market's prestige value and compares it to your car. And each demographic actually cares about, to different degrees, about reputation and prestige and weighs them in, and they become direct desirability multipliers on your cars. In the last little dev update I showed you these locking symbols on the various regions. If you start out in Gazmir, actually Froenia is the first region for you to unlock in 1970, as you can see here in the middle little matrix of unlock years. And then Ahana would unlock in 1990. But if you start in Froenia, then Froenia unlocked in 1920. But Ahana already opens up to you in 1960. So if you choose one of the more difficult, smaller regions, you will have quicker access to other regions as well. And yes, what happens when you unlock a region? Well, that is the first time you actually can build factories in these regions, but you don't have to have a factory in a region to be able to sell to that region. You can also just transport, distribute your cars to these regions at a higher cost. It takes $500 to ship them there, so independent of which region you ship to. And if you ship an engine over for production, like you produce engines in one area and cars in another which use those engines, per engine you pay $100. Yeah, that ups your prices a bit, but you gain access to new markets. We just talked about this awareness factor, and that comes into play a lot here, and that might give players who start out in a more difficult region a bit of a head start over the Gazmians. Because if you have access to another region earlier, you can start building a bit of an awareness on brand image there already. Your starting region comes with a home turf bonus, but the second region won't have that advantage, so you will start out at like maybe 20% awareness in every demographic, which is really low, so you can only sell 1/5 of the maximum of your allowed cars. And that allowance also depends on your competitiveness score and many different other factors. As well as, of course, what we just mentioned in topic number 2, your reputation and your prestige. While we are talking about market sizes, I've made up this little stat sheet for you here, so that you really can check what's going on. I also mentioned that different regions have different tastes. And here they are. These numbers in the size factor column are what are the tastes of the different regions, and if they are above 1, then they like the cars, and if they are below 1, they don't really like these cars. And if you check out the year column, these are the years when these demographics even start to exist. Gazmir is really not a fan of light sports cars and track cars until like the 80s, and Froenia is all about them already from 1920 onwards. So from the start of the game, they love them. They just love their light sports cars, a factor of 2, while Gazmians hate them. That's a factor of 0.25. While Gazmians, on the other hand, they love their muscle cars. Well, the muscle cars, yes, factor of 2, while the Froenians hate those muscle cars. And Ahana actually kind of likes muscle cars as well. So they are the Gazmians' retarded friend or something. Anyway, I think that is all for today. I hope that was a little bit more in depth and not too boring with so little to show. But much of this stuff is already in the game, like the screen we are looking at right now, that's all in the game already. But it's so difficult to show when you don't have the proper graphs in the game implemented yet. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed and see you next time!